Hi, everyone. My name is Bijal. As mentioned, I run our analytics and data products team at Ibotta. Hopefully, you guys have had a chance to actually download the app and see what we do. If not, I will at least give a little bit of background later on in my presentation about the types of data we're collecting. And today I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking to you about in-flight optimization. We're spending a lot of time talking about multi-touch attribution and what that means. And that's really great for after your campaign is done, trying to assess which channels worked best and what campaign creative might have worked and how that blends online to offline. But what do you do while your campaign is running? What can you do that's better than a click-through rate to help you optimize campaigns in real time? Because at the end of the day, whether you're a brand or a retailer, there's a trade desk sitting somewhere, and at that trade desk are individuals who are making decisions, potentially using machine learning, maybe not, on how they're going to reallocate your spend. And how do we get better with the process of figuring out where you should be spending those dollars, and how do we stop relying on click-through rate? Because as much as we talk about attribution and moving the needle and taking this data and making improvements, it's really, really difficult to move away from using click-through rate. And so I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking to you about what we're developing at Ibotta, the need for why we're developing it, and the evolution of how we think about measurement. I put together a slide to talk about why attribution is really important, only to realize this entire conference is about attribution, and maybe this is pointless, so I'm going to skip this slide. So Coca-Cola, this wasn't the exact ad I was looking for, but the best I could find. But Coca-Cola decides that they want to run an awareness play or a play to get you to try a new product or a new flavor of Coca-Cola inside of your mobile app. That's great. How do we figure out whether that creative is working? How do we figure out that app is the right app to be placing your media in? How do we figure out how many people actually went and purchased your particular product? Let's talk about the evolution of measurement and how Coca-Cola has been doing it till today, I suspect. We started off with click-through rates. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly with click-through rates. We then decided, you know what, click-through rate isn't good enough. We need something like a store visitation rate. That's great. If you're a CPG brand, it's not so great. I'll get into why. We then decided, okay, maybe store spend lift is actually helpful because we'll get some incrementality data. And we finally got to the world of, you know, what's really important is something called a buy-through rate, an understanding of the people who are exposed to this media, how many of them actually went and purchased. In theory, that sounds fantastic. I'm going to talk to you about the shortcomings of the way that we've been doing it today. Click-through rate, it's great. It's measurable. It's instantaneously measurable. Somebody sees an ad, did they click on it? Yes or no? You can compare across campaigns, which is even more fantastic. In real time, you're sitting there getting data back on whether that creative or that ad is working and whether it's placed in the right place. You know what the click-through rate is on one platform, you can compare that to another platform, and then you can decide, do I want to re-optimize my spend, yes or no? It's optimizable in real time. You don't have to wait for a delay. There are no delays. You're not waiting weeks. You're not waiting months. You're just not waiting. You maybe have to wait 24 hours in some cases, but in most cases, you can actually see in real time what is happening and make decisions accordingly. However, in 2014, a study came out that showed click-through rate is not a good proxy for determining secondary action rates. What's a secondary action? Going to visit the store, actually buying a particular product, taking some deeper action online to actually put something in your basket. It doesn't lead to secondary actions actually happening. Okay, well, if we can't use click-through rate, what should we do? We then moved to store visitation lift, which is great. There's a lot of companies out there using geolocation data to help us understand whether or not someone actually visited a store after seeing a particular ad. For retailers, this is fantastic. Did someone go to your store? And maybe you're sophisticated enough to then know, well, did they actually go and purchase something? It doesn't work for CPG companies. While you might know that they went to the store, you have no clue what was in their basket. No clue. So then we decided, okay, well, maybe we don't know what's in the basket, but maybe if we can understand where they're going to the store and spending, we'll get a little more data on how much they're spending, and maybe, just maybe, we'll get data on what they buy. So the granularity of the data is really good in this case, right? Someone is exposed to an ad, they then go to a particular place to shop, we have the data to actually link that together, we track back that they purchased, and now we've solved closed loop attribution. Wrong. There are significant delays in getting this data back. We've heard about it all morning. I will continue to tell you. For companies who do this really well, it takes 8 to 12 weeks after the campaign has finished. I just talked to someone during lunch. They ran a campaign in June. It's now November, going into December, and they still haven't got the results of their study. It's really difficult to optimize if you are waiting 6 months. So many things change in the digital landscape, where people's eyeballs are in the mobile world. You can't rely on this data to actually make actionable decisions that will help you improve your spend today. In addition to that, we've been spending a lot of time talking about online to offline attribution. A lot of the providers in the space, they have to rely on modeling just to figure out, okay, this mobile device where this person saw this ad is tied to this email address, is tied to maybe these 4 people. I'm going to choose one of them based on probability, and then I'm going to go look for spend data that might be attributable based on their credit card number, maybe, but I probably only have the last 4 digits, maybe based on their loyalty card ID, but I don't really know how that links back to their device, and so I'm not really sure. So I'm going to use a lot of probabilistic modeling to try and figure out, did they go purchase or did they not? What if we lived in a world where you could get real-time campaign optimization through purchase-through rates, actually knowing through an attribution window people went and purchased a product? What if it came with the campaign? Just like Facebook provides you with click-through rates inside their Power Editor platform, what if we could provide data that wasn't a click-through rate, but a purchase-through rate in real time to help you optimize your campaigns? What if you also got additional analyses that told you things like what's in the basket, where else they've been shopping, what they look like from a demographic perspective, what type of payment they used? That's what we're working on at Ibotta. And I know you're saying this sounds too good to be true, and I will tell you we're in our very early stages, and I'll walk you through how we do this, but we're really excited. My whole goal is to move the industry away from thinking about click-through rates at the point at which someone is optimizing. I know we can sit in a room and 8 to 12 weeks later talk about why we think we need to use multi-touch attribution, and I definitely think that plays a part, but I'm saying in the moment, in the real time, while machine learning is happening, how do we optimize our campaigns? Here's how Ibotta does real-time attribution today. We work with trade desks who send us device ID files. The device ID is basically on your mobile. When you're using a mobile phone, there's a device that each user has. We have IDs for each user. We have our own IDs for people who've downloaded the Ibotta app. We then take that device ID, we map it back to our database. On a nightly basis, and in some cases in almost real time, we're collecting purchase data on users. We collect the purchase data in multiple different ways, including optical character recognition. When a user takes a photo of their receipt, we're able to tag that back to who they actually are. We then take those track devices and we take an attribution window. In the case of some products, it's 14-day attribution. In cases where people are going and buying these things on a daily basis, maybe a Starbucks coffee, we would do a daily attribution. We then take that information and we figure out who's purchased and who hasn't. We build propensity scores to try and understand, okay, of all the people who are exposed to this, if you didn't actually have a holdout group and a control, how do we find an audience that looks very similar to the exposed audience and determine whether or not we actually saw a lift? We then pass the data back into the trade desk so that in near real time, you're getting data back on how the campaign is performing. Now, mind you, you can't probably take action off of that data the next day, right? I see an ad for Coca-Cola. I might not go tomorrow to buy a 6-pack of Coke, but I'll probably go in the next 2 weeks because people go shopping in 10-day buying cycles. And so I'll use a 10-day or a 14-day attribution window to try and say, okay, did this exposure actually lead to a specific sale of a specific product? We also get all of our data deterministically. We know who you are because you signed up for our app. We know what your demographics are because you told us. We know where you're going because you use our app and we have location turned on. We know your email address because you gave it to us. We know what you're spending because you take photos of your receipts or you've linked your loyalty card. These are all great ways for us to link all the data together deterministically and tie out exactly what you're purchasing after what you saw. We collect data from all of these retailers. This is supposed to be an eyesore, just so you could see where our coverage is national. We're capturing data from places like Walmart and Target, which tend to be hard places to get data from. We build reports on the back end, either before you run the campaign or after the campaign, to help you actually get better details on who is seeing your ads and what they ultimately are doing. And what else is in their basket. So talk about wanting to better understand co-promotion strategies, knowing that when someone goes and buys Gillette razors, they also go buy Mars candy bars. It's probably pretty powerful. I don't know why they do that. And then you want to talk about walled gardens. So walled gardens are the Facebooks, the Googles, the Instagrams, the Pinterests, the Snapchats of the world. So we talk about attribution, but we never talk about attribution with these guys. Why? Because they don't actually give their data back to us. That's where actually working with a mobile provider like us becomes very powerful. Facebook just released a new tool. Actually, it was released a year ago, and they did an update on it back in June that allows someone to feed in POS data. Facebook runs the attribution on the campaigns that ran inside of Facebook's platform to help you optimize your campaigns. We can pass that data to Facebook to help understand how your spend is working on Facebook and how you can optimize in a platform like that. So if you want to get started with something like this, you don't necessarily have to come to Ibotta. I think it's really important that you talk with folks who manage your media buys. They could be inside of your company. They could be one of your media agencies, about testing hypotheses to move away from click-through rate. And maybe your first step is move to store visitation rate. But if you're a CPG company in particular, I would argue that the best place to go is to something like a purchase-through rate. You can develop benchmarks and then figure out, okay, how do I port these benchmarks outside of other platforms? Or how do I look at my spend on non-walled garden spaces and compare that to walled garden spaces to better understand where I should actually be investing my digital media buys? That's all I got. 5 minutes. Oh, hello. Oh, I have 5 minutes to answer questions.
You're working off a small sample and probably a bias sample. How do you extrapolate this onto a population?
Yeah, we have 20 million downloads of our app, and so the sample is not quite as small as you think. When you think about panel providers, they're usually working between 100,000 and 300,000 households. We're actually quite larger than that. We do see bias in our data. We see bias in our data because we have people who are generally doing the shopping in the household. And so what that means is it tends to be a lot of women. We scale a little bit heavier towards millennial women, and that's fine. We can actually obviously use different models to actually create a convenience panel or to create panels that are more representative of the United States. Because we capture data from Walmart, Target, and Kroger, we're able to actually get a nationally representative panel across the United States, which a lot of other players can't do. But every data has bias, and you have to exclude those biases out of the platform in different ways, and we have our methodologies for doing that. It depends on who we're working with and exactly what they're looking for and what their goals are. So in some cases, brands don't care about, brands in particular, they actually just care about, can I compare this campaign to this next campaign to a control group? I want to do it all at the same time, and I don't actually care about extrapolating nationally because I want to care about the sample that my media was exposed to.
So your app, and I'm from Cody, and we work with you, and doing some very interesting data things coming up, hopefully, like next week. But one of the big questions that we've always had, and that I'm sure other people have, is that the folks who are using your app are very promotional based. They're looking for deals. So in talking about bias and skew, when you do capture, if it's receipts or loyalty cards, all of the purchases. So how do you then weigh what people are buying in that ROI versus those that are looking for deals and buying?
Yeah, our app's actually not skewed towards deal-seeking consumers. The way that we know that is we get loyalty card feeds for every retailer, the full feed of loyalty card data. We can take that data and compare it to Ibotta user and see if the basket sizes are different, if the prices they're paying are different, how many coupons or rebates were inside of the platform when they bought the product. So that's a really great question. So we can do direct comparisons and actually know that our panel is not skewed. Our shopper actually tends to not be, if you think about the traditional couponer, they tend to be a little bit older. They tend to be okay with cutting out paper coupons or printers. Our users don't have printers. They live in a lot of cities. They spend a lot of time doing both online and offline shopping. They're a different breed of users than the traditional promotional shopper or coupon shopper.
So I've been using Ibotta for the last year along with Checkout 51.
Yeah.
Very powerful, great value proposition. What's your experience been with brand advertising when it's not a coupon or cash back? Is there any effectiveness for advertisers that are seeking to do brand? And are those results projectable with regard to the rest of their campaign activities?
Yeah, inside, so we do both offline or outside of Ibotta brand promotion. So we basically take seed segments, model them out to non-Ibotta users, and then sell them on other platforms. That's part of our targeting business. And that works very differently than inside of our app. So inside of our app, we run basically video ads inside of our platform. Our users are highly engaged, and so those click-through rates, the purchase-through rates are very, very high compared to traditional channels, even compared to a lot of social channels. And part of that is because they're probably in the shopping mindset already by the time they get to our app, and so the conversion rates are a lot higher. So it's great. If you want to remind someone right before they go to the store that they should think about buying Ritz crackers, it's a great time to hit them because you have no idea exactly what crackers they're going to buy, and if you remind them right before they go shopping, it actually works quite well. In the offline channel, because our seeds are all deterministic, so the way that we create our seed audiences is we are deterministically tying your device ID to your email address to your purchasing behavior, our seeds are a lot stronger. And so then when my data science team goes and models that out to everybody else in the United States who might be buying these products, we tend to see a lot higher purchase-through rates on the back end because we know that the seed that we started with was very, very high quality. The seed or the
Any of it.
how much of it is, I didn't hear the.
Is exportable to the client's DMP?
Yeah, so we have different relationships with different clients, so it just depends on who we're working with and what part of that we port over. Great, I'm out of time. Thank you, sorry.